Hello and welcome to the Power of the Unanswered Quote, where we're going to talk about how a lot of times we think an unanswered quote means, oh man, I just wasted my time. But let's go over the what other things that could mean. Okay, so what I want to get started with is I am very curious. I would like to know, when is spring break in your area? When does your area go to spring break? I guess also share where you're from. That way you can we know. Um, okay. What we're gonna do is I am just gonna make sure this is being shared in the right places. Let's see, there we go. And okay, Easter weekend, Wednesday to Monday. Yep, we're in PA and Catholic school as well, and we are Easter weekend. It's a very short spring break, I should say. It's not a whole week. Um, but I know that's not the norm. Public schools around here are either the week before Easter or the week after Easter, but it's always tied to the Easter holiday. All right, and let me go ahead and I am going to just post this in here. I'm going to see where other um, perfect. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that this is showing in our group. My computer is very slow. I'm getting a new one today. It is dying. If you know when your computer is actually like about to go, um, it's been going for a while, I think, and I've just been trying all the things to fix it. Um, but so I am just hoping we can get through this live because it's just gotten incrementally worse each each time I try. Okay. Not a full week, just 3 days around Easter. Yep, same as my family too. Okay, awesome. All right. So, I was just curious because I know a lot of March, I guess, is the college spring break. I'm going to move myself closer to the mic here. Hold on. There we go. All right. Um but some high schools have off in March too, or like, school districts. So they all do it differently. So it's just interesting to me. Okay, so let's get into an unanswered quote. All right, and this is a common occurrence, right? In our world, we will issue a quote, and in the most ideal world, we issue the quote and they book it. Sometimes that happens. That does happen. If they are ready in their minds. What makes that happen? Okay. What's the difference between an answered quote and an unanswered quote? That's what we're going to go over today. All right. So let's talk about why some people might not respond to a quote. And there we go. And if I freeze, please comment so I know. Like I said, the computer is on its last leg. All right. So the first reason why someone might not respond to a quote is that they're not ready to commit. They were curious, but they don't want to tell you that, oh well, this is a little bit much right now, or we're not ready to commit to these dates. We have to wait until another tournament schedule comes out, or, um, a lot of people are juggling a lot of different things at one time. Okay. So, what we have to remember is that just because they don't answer after you send the quote, or if they don't give you any sort of response, it doesn't mean that they don't want to book. They just might have to figure out some more things. Like, and I know exactly what some people are going through. They have to wait for the school schedule to come out, or their kid made a certain team and now they have to see what the schedule is for the summer. Like, are they going to have different camps or different, things to prepare for the new season in the fall, or whatever it may be. There's a lot that people are juggling. So even though they're interested in going, and maybe your marketing did such a good job that you caught their attention. However, they're like, okay, you know, this is something we want to do, but we need to figure out a couple more things. And see, people are so busy, sometimes they don't tell you this. So you think that they've just ghosted you. All right. But it's not really the case, or it can't be the case. I mean, listen, I I'm just giving some examples of what it could be. I'm not saying that it is the case, but they need more time to figure things out. So that's why it's always good to kind of let them know if you think these dates are, most likely, you can always change them. So let them know that the quote that you have is valid for those dates. And if they think they're most likely to go on those dates, awesome. But if something changes, they can modify. Now, of course, you have to go off of the supplier's policies and depends on what you're quoting. If you're quoting something that has non-refundable air, that's a little different, okay? But if it's something that is flexible, point that out when you are doing the quote, okay? So that's the first one. They're not ready to commit, and they usually don't tell us this. They don't tell us what's going on. That's why it's really good, going off of what we talked about last week, qualifying, talking to the client about what's going on. What are they celebrating? What are they doing on the trip? Because then a lot of times they'll say, well, listen, we know we want to go in October, but we're not sure what week the school break will be. So I need to wait till the district releases that calendar. Um, at least you know then. And then you can say, okay, well, why don't we wait until, so if you want to wait until the calendar comes out, and then if you know when the calendar comes out, then follow up with them then. Or you can do a quote, but just say, well, this will be for X and X date if this is the week you think the break is going to be. And they can put a deposit down, and as long as it's refund, like as long as it's a flexible package policy. All right. So let's go to another reason. They forgot. Okay, this kind of piggybacks off of they're unsure. They forgot about it. And I know we talk about this all the time. I talk about it. We live in the world of travel. We are always thinking about deposits and final payment dates and when the best rooms get sold out. We're thinking about this stuff. That's why we do what we do. We know the industry. We know, well, there are only 8 penthouse rooms. And if you want one of those rooms, you better know, okay? You better go ahead and get your deposit in. They forget because they're not in our world. They're just thinking, okay, I'll get to this. And then they forget about it. It's not that they don't want to go. It could be that they don't want to go, but it could just be they are forgetting to make their deposit. Okay. And that's when we have to be there to remind them. A lot of times people think, oh, if you send more than one follow up email, you're annoying them. Well, yes, but if they're forgetting, they're going to be grateful for that reminder. And if they, ask them for a response in your follow up. Now, a lot of times, sometimes they still don't respond, but don't forget about them because they can easily forget that a deposit is due or that, you need the dates of birth for all the passengers so that you can put the room on hold. Okay. They forget. People are always forgetting. Okay. Think about all the things you forget about. Okay. And even though they're not related to travel, because that's our priority, but we forget about things and then we're like, oh yeah, we got to do that. All right. So just put this, look at it from someone else's perspective for a little bit, just so that you can remember that even though they forgot, it doesn't mean they don't want to book. It just means they forgot. Okay. And the last one we're going to talk about today is they are just overwhelmed and confused and they do not know what to do. Okay. And this comes from a lot of different things. It can come from a quote that has too much in it. It can come from, they don't really know what they don't know and they're overwhelmed by that. Okay. So that's why, and that goes back to having a solid sales process. By qualifying them before you send the quote, you're already giving them some education about what would be best for them and helping them make a decision. And then in the quote, what I do actually is I walk them through the quote. I explain everything as if I was teaching a class on whatever the destination is. Now, I don't do that for every quote. If there's people who've been there before, they're repeat clients, I don't need to do that. But for someone who hasn't been to Disney World since the year 2000, it's helpful to go through and explain, okay, so this is what all you could put in a package. This is where, I'm recommending you stay here or here for these reasons. Okay. By breaking things down for people, it makes them easier to come to a decision. All right. So a lot of times they're not responding to the quote is because they feel like they need to study more before they make a choice. Okay. And again, it's overwhelming to them because this is not something they look at all the time. This is more than likely going to be a very big price. Okay, for the way that travel costs now, I mean, most trips are thousands and thousands of dollars. So they want to make sure they're not making the wrong decision. So when you issue a quote, think about that. I make this as clear as possible what they're getting. And sometimes that is hard for us to do because we are in it. We are in it. Like I talk Disney all day, every day. Okay. I know all of the things about where to stay and what to eat and where not to go and all these other things. I know it all in my brain. But I have to remember my clients don't. My clients are specialists in what they do for a living. It's not their job to know, well, is Pop Century better than Art of Animation or what's the difference between the two? What if I want to stay here versus there? Is staying at a monorail hotel really worth the convenience? All of those things they can, if you just issue a quote to say you get it, I'm just going to stick with Disney since I went here with the example. If you get a Disney lead and they say they want to go June 10th to the 15th, they want to do, hold on a second. I hear, he's just, the puppy was just, the puppy, he's 75-pound puppy. But anyway, he was just going up on the chair to lay down, not chewing on a blanket, which I thought he was doing. Anyway, where was I? So if they tell you, okay, we want to go these 5 nights, we want to go to all the parks. We don't know if we want the dining plan. Where should we stay? Okay, you need more information from them to give them the quote that they want. I know a lot of agents will just put in, okay, well, I like this one at the moderate, this one at the value, this one at the deluxe. However, you have to figure out for them what is best. And that involves qualifying them. I don't ever issue a quote without first getting a feel for what they want to do. For example, I had a family who has 3 days in Disney. And I asked them, I said, what is the priority here? Here's what we have. And I wanted to get at, are they going to be, the Skyliner be a good place for them? If they aren't planning on going to Epcot and Hollywood Studios or only one of those two, and they want 2 days at Magic Kingdom, Wilderness Lodge would be a better choice than Caribbean Beach or Art of Animation. So I wanted to put them somewhere that would get them close to things but then also hit a variety of budgets as well. So I wanted to know, hey, what are your kids into? What do they like? What is it that you guys are going to get done in your 3 days? And then recommend from there. Okay, they have to understand what they're booking and you have to understand what they want out of the trip. You can't do that without qualifying. Okay, so a lot of times we get these problems after we've issued the quote. They're like, they don't know what to pick because they're confused. But if you start before you issue the quote and really truly qualify, find out what they want to do, you will get a much quicker response because they've already thought this through with you. You've guided them through it. It makes it an easy choice. Basically, you want them to be there, give them 2 to 3 options. Sometimes I do 4. I don't like to do 4 options, but sometimes they want, a 4th option. But I like to really get them, to the point where, yes, this is what we want. Okay. And that takes work in the qualifying stage. But qualifying well means you close easier. Okay, so let's remember that. And so again, the three reasons why sometimes a quote goes unanswered. And it's okay that it happens because guess what? You got this. And we always have something, knowing, okay, if they're getting confused, like, and this does involve communication. When someone doesn't reply to a quote, you have to go back to them and say, hey, what's going on? Sometimes they're not going to tell you, but this could be some of the things that are happening. So by fortifying your pre, your qualifying, your quoting, by solidifying those skills, that makes this part easier. Okay. So, um, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Normally, I do these on Thursdays, but this week it's Wednesday. So I hope you're having a great week. And I will see you again next week for another mini class. Bye bye.